Welcome to the Blueprint Tour, where we visit industry experts from all corners of the construction industry to overcome trust hurdles and build community. I'm Kenny Shultz, and this Season 3 episode was recorded live at the 2024 CREI Summit in Atlanta. If you're interested in using digital tools like social media, podcasting, email, and AI to drive your business development and real estate, you don't want to miss the 2025 CREI Summit happening in the beautiful Palm Desert, California. Now, let's get into today's conversation. All right.
Oh, here we go.
Welcome back to the Blueprint Tour. I'm Kenny with Carter, and we're here with Robyn, a broker, investor. We'll get into it. So welcome, Robyn. Give us a quick intro.
Great. So, thanks for this random interface. I am Robyn Letourneau. I work primarily in the Connecticut market and actually, interestingly, do a lot of new construction and development. So familiar with engineers and you're destructing habits. Just kidding. I really respect a lot of what you do, and I think it's so interesting how you're able to see things so broadly. So a lot of respect for your industry.
That's okay. You can talk shit about engineers. It's fine.
But yeah, so what I do, I'm a broker, came out of residential real estate, still kind of in the middle, but moving into commercial, doing a lot of new construction development, condos, things of that nature, because Connecticut is much more of a submarket than places like New York City or Boston. So yeah, really, really interesting mixed use style new construction projects on deck.
Yeah, mixed use. We do a lot of that. Our brand focuses what we call small projects, but multifam is one that we get involved with because we're essentially trying to just stick to commodity engineering because no other engineering firm wants to do it. It's like they run from it. So I'm like, well, if we can figure out how to do small projects and commodity style things, then that'd be great for us. But we'll do 200, 300 unit multifam designs, and it's mostly because depending on the design is you can have like 4 layouts and it's just repeated. So it is kind of a small project, I guess, if you think of it that way in terms of the number of sheets, I guess. Unless it's a hotel like this or some crazy high design, you're going all in on Class A type stuff. That's not a good fit, but there's plenty of, great multifam that we do in Richmond. So the ground up, another interesting thing I learned about the ground up, which is neat, is there's a guy on Twitter who does a lot of lending, and he doesn't like to lend on ground up. I'm like, why? Because he calls it higher risk.
It is.
Yeah. Talk about like what that means, and we unpack a little bit. He just didn't want to own sticks, basically. Half built.
Well, and I just saw one of those actually in my market. So this new construction project was multi-phase because they usually are, right? So your first phase is kind of your infrastructure, your groundwork, all of the necessary utilities that you need, right? So that is the most expensive startup cost. And unless you've already thought 10 years in advance, then there's a very high chance that things could, take a turn because you don't know during the phases how the development is going to progress. Are your staff going to show up? Are costs of materials going to change? So like all of these factors go into it. And what's so interesting, and I love development for this reason, is that you really do have to micromanage, with the understanding that you're managing the risk as well. So I just came across one actually in Rhode Island. This particular project had 2 phases completed, and after phase 2, the original developer died.
Gosh.
So talk about high risk.
Yeah.
He died. And so one of the contractors came in and purchased the development rights, with his funding and everything else being very creative, hard money, all sorts of investors, quote unquote, until they ran out of money. And then so they borrowed more. And so you can see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
So he finished up phase 4. Which was just one single building of condos. And when he both sold the units, so they're promised, and that was 3 years ago. And they're not completed, right? So now all those escrows are sitting there, and there's still a $5 million deficit for the next phase, which is a large phase. And in order to complete, now, again, you still have all your infrastructure there. So for somebody coming into the mix, this is a great opportunity. But again, you're not going to get lending on it because there's so much risk between the point at which you enter the deal and at the point of which it's completed. And there's so many variables because not only are the development rights tentative for that next phase because there's a timeline with the town, right? You also have all of these external factors. It's in receivership. So all sorts of chaos within that realm. Timelines, again. You have these promised units, and they're not at today's market rates. So you're really, if you just blew all those deals up, you'd have an opportunity to recoup some of the money. But you can't, right? Because then you're going to get sued. So yeah, to your point, very high risk.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild to just unpack how that can happen. And we were talking to a guy named Andrew in LA. He does development out there, which to me just seems just gotta be a special kind of crazy, I guess.
Especially with what's going on over there.
He was talking about how Los Angeles County has, or maybe it's California, I forget, I don't know who's the jurisdiction enforcing it, but if you impact the environment, like the community has the right to sue and stop a project, but that'll be including if shading, like your building may cause shade and projects will be put on hold.
Because Can you imagine?
And it's just completely halted until whatever this dispute gets resolved, if it gets resolved for however long. Meanwhile, paying whatever debt payments somehow. I don't even know how. Just seems wild to try to get that built.
And I think legislation has a lot of impacts on development projects in general because something could pass midway through and it could change the whole trajectory. You know, things like affordable housing being a priority are great. And so what's funny about Connecticut, right, is New Haven County has probably the largest deliveries coming, which is great, but it's still not even like touching the surface of what's needed in affordable housing. In Connecticut, we need like 92,000 units of affordable housing. And right now, I think the deliveries are somewhere in like the 6,000 or 9,000 range. I can't remember. I think some of them have been delivered. But in Hartford County, you know, there's still such a great opportunity, especially in multifamily and all of those spaces. But the tides are uncertain and debt is expensive. So it's a very interesting space to be in. But I'm curious from an engineering standpoint, like how do you factor in for like a new construction development type multifamily or even mixed use? That seems to be the most popular right now. How do you consider some of those external factors when you're putting things together?
Well, the answer is most. I can't speak for all engineers, but I could venture that you just don't. And that's kind of why we're here is doing the podcast and learning about the front end of deals and what goes into these and understanding that we do MEP engineering. So we can represent a third, sometimes 40%. Zach's project, he says 40% of it was MEP. And we'll call brokers sometimes just a cold call to introduce ourselves. And a lot of times we're most often like, well, we don't have anything in common. And I'm like, I get it, but you're really consulting on how to put a deal together and accepting this debt or part of this huge transaction that we specify a third of the cost for. So maybe we should talk, you know. I'm not trying to sell you specifically anything. You wouldn't hire me, but these conversations, maybe we could learn how to ask better questions. This comes up a lot as engineers. We'll just answer the question. Without first figuring out, was that a good question? Like, can we ask you, if you ask me to do something, right? And then I continue to ask you questions about it to make sure I really understand what you're after and maybe could help you walk through the implications of what you're asking for. And engineers are notorious for just, okay, I'll engineer what you asked. And then $20,000 in fee later, you're like, oh, fuck. And I know I asked for that.
You just created a completely different problem.
Could you have told me what that looked like before you got that far? You know?
You've also just described every web developer I've ever met.
Yeah.
Must be a nerd thing.
Yeah, well, we had to do software in-house now because of that.
You told us what you wanted.
Yes.
And we gave it to you.
This is the spec. That's what you asked for. It's hard to be consultants. Engineers are, you know, not super socially gifted all the time. So that's kind of tough. Plus, it's regulated, so you have to have a license to practice, and
Sure.
that like limits the supply of engineers also.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we're a smaller firm, so recruiting is a challenge. To get somebody that wants to leave, really super stable AECOM type place and come work for us. And not only that, we do only small projects and in the commodity, like I was saying. So
Sure.
it's not the sexiest engineering out there. In fact, maybe the bottom.
Yeah, well, the reason why somebody would want to do it is because they'd want to get opportunity for exposure for consulting.
Yeah.
But
yes.
you got to be a special breed of engineer to also be socially gifted enough to want to do that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
So we do focus on trying to teach our engineers how to consult, because everyone should have the baseline technical knowledge. You went to school, you have a license. Like, there's really no need to harp on that too much. It's regulated that you have to get with it. And so this podcast is about that. I'm curious on your side. You're a broker as well. Are you mostly brokering or mostly developing projects?
Oh, I'm mostly brokering. I
Okay.
personally have not developed a project.
Okay.
I've been a part of the process. So seeing kind of the whole spectrum really helps me to guide my clients.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really popular in Connecticut is conversion, because we have a lot of old buildings and
Adaptive historic tax credit.
Yeah, well, yes, correct. Adaptive reuse and historic tax credits do play a role in some cases,
Yeah.
but there's definitely a lot of challenges with that.
Yeah, we do. There's tons in Virginia of the historic tax credit stuff. We just got asked to do 2 proposals from one of our clients just right before this, and we have our instant quote. So you should try it one day. I'd be curious to get feedback, but you can punch in square footage. It'll give you a proposal, a contract actually, and a price. And I like to ask people to try, not because you're going to hire me, but to give me feedback on, it could be better. What did he say today? He's like, what you should do is have him ask, do you want somebody to call you now? Because you got a number.
Yeah, you need a call to
$45,000.
action for sure.
Yeah, like $45,000 fee or whatever. It's like, do you want us to call you right now? And then you punch your number, and then within a minute you get us being like, hey,
Oh,
let's take a look at it.
That's
That's what we're
cool.
going to add to it. I forget where it's going with it, but
where do I find this instant?
permitzip.com.
Okay, cool.
We are not licensed out there. I think we might have started a process, but still, you said you get like web developers. You work with like software developers that'll build stuff for you.
So I have.
Yeah.
It's not like something I do on the regular. But I at one point made a website, and he goes, well, what do you want? And I was like, I thought you were going to tell me.
Yeah, where's the consulting?
Right. Like I thought you were going to tell me. Right. So, and it was funny because when I was building it, he was like, well, what do you want on your website? And I said, well, I'm, a broker. At the time I was doing primarily residential. So I was like, well, I think of what I want my potential audience to see, and that is kind of some of the work I've done, what my way of doing business is, and how I deliver, on those promises. And so he was like, okay, so what does that look like? I'm like, I thought you were going to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough thing to figure that out, to try to deliver something for somebody that's as nebulous as like a website that could go in any direction.
Sure.
And engineering, at least we get, electrical is nice. Like multifamily is like rules, just put them here. Receptacles go here.
Yeah.
It's like no brainer.
Organized, yeah.
Yeah, HVAC's different because a lot of people will quote value engineer, and if you're in a high humidity climate like Florida or Virginia, then doing that can destroy the building because you get rid of all the features that remove moisture and humidity. And so it's a bad idea to do that. So consulting and being like, I always tell people it's not illegal to be uncomfortable. So are you sure you want to go down that road? Because I'm going to document that
Sure.
you're going to break your whole building, your whole investment's going to go rot and mold from the inside. But if you don't want to spend this 10 grand, be penny wise, pound foolish, that's fine. I can't force you to spend money. But that's kind of what I mean. The developer trying to figure out, help you get to that point. That's HVAC is very much that way, helping people understand the cost of the value engineering.
So my mind goes to this as an investor, right? So somebody built a building, right? And they knew what they did when they built it. They went the cheap route. So they understood that high humidity could potentially cause damage and, probably mold and whatever comes with that. How do you know that in advance without, knowing it in advance?
Okay, well, DM me on Twitter and I can help you. Or when you get somebody offering value engineering advice for you, what I tell people to try to figure out if they know what they're talking about, ask this one question. Go look up if you don't know this word, it's psychrometrics. It's the science of how much air is in water is in the air, and it's what HVAC people use to figure out how to select equipment. So just ask, hey, would you mind? This is a great idea. I'm glad you saved me this $100,000. I appreciate it. Could you give me the psychrometric study? I want my engineer to look at. Just make sure we're good. And if they give you the blank stare because you said a word they don't understand, do not take their advice of value engineering. Just don't. Just run and find an engineer. Because that's the answer to the question is we know based on what you're going to do with the building, and like an assembly space like this with a bunch of people, they sweat, so then they evaporate water into the air.
Sure.
It also has a lot of ventilation requirements. So the outside air has to be dumped in here at high volumes, and it's humid out here in Georgia. So you're just dumping water inside of a space like this, and if you don't have dehumidification, which is expensive to purchase, then it just destroys the building. So yeah, I'll know right away. Another hack, if it's an assembly space, you can guarantee moisture. Like anything that's like a restaurant or this type. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of how we do it.
That's a great answer.
Psychrometrics. Ask them about that.
Psychrometrics.
Yeah, it's a weird word to be forever have spell.
It. It's a fun
it's got
word.
like an R in there after the
I
C.
never think that the R gets me every time.
I thought it was psychometrics for the longest time, but engineers aren't the best spellers.
Ironic, actually. I feel like you guys have attention to detail.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you get back to it. We really appreciate you hopping in with us on this podcast. If you know anybody out there that wants to come chat with us, let us know.
So where do I find your podcast?
Oh, yeah, it's the Blueprint Tour.
Okay.
thebptour.com.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, we go and just talk to people in construction, commercial real estate, architects, everybody in the industry, just having riffs, basically. And we like to take it to site. That's what we like to do. We like to go on tour. Since we're engineers and that's as cool as we can possibly be, go on tour.
The bar's pretty low.
Yeah, it's pretty low. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. And if you're ever in Connecticut, please reach out. I'd love to have you on site at one of our new development sites.
Let's do that. Yeah, we could do an episode out there. That'd be fun. Yeah. That's what we like to do.
Awesome.
Cool, Robyn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robyn.
Yeah.